So this particular video is about finding ways to speed up potentially long and tedious tasks. So when doing iOS app development, you eventually come across an Info.plist, which is essentially a document containing key value pairs. This is also where descriptions for app permissions are written, and that's what we're looking at today. I noticed each word was capitalized, and I needed to make them all lowercase for each instance this occurred, with the exception of the start of each sentence. As depicted in the intro, first I started changing each word but gave up and resorted to code. So I created a playground, which is an area in which you can play around with code. Copied all the sentences I needed to change and then wrote some code to achieve this. So first, here's some pseudocode. So for each sentence, we get each word in the sentence, and if it's the first word, we want to capitalize it, otherwise we want to lowercase it. We then add the fixed sentence to a collection and eventually print the whole collection. So I wrote the following extension of the string class, which allowed me to process a sentence, and this was expressed as a computed property which I could then call. And now to explain the role of each function. First, the function prefix with the argument of 1. So when using a function like substring, or in this case prefix, the 0th position starts just before the string. As shown in this image, it will be just before the A, and therefore its value will be blank, and the first position will actually be the A. In this case, I use prefix with the argument 1 to get the very first letter in the string, and then I make this uppercase. And now drop first. So drop first does as it says and removes the first character in the string, but also importantly leaves the rest. I concatenate the results of both these operations together, and this gives me the intended final result, which is a capitalized word. I then loop through the list of sentences, and for each sentence call this property with the lowercase function. Notice how I call the lowercase first, so the capitalization can be then corrected after. Finally, I append the result to a list. And then, when I print the list, I am then left with all the corrected sentences. Now sure, if there are a few sentences, I could have just went through them all, but this is useful if you have a list of maybe 100 sentences, and certainly can be used to speed things up. This arose from another task I had in which I had to splice up a long audio file into several smaller clips. I used Audacity and labels to achieve the slicing up. Once they were split up, I had to label them with the sound they represented and export them as MP3 files. I had to do this 36 times, creating at least 7 to 10 clips each time. So the problem arose when I had to rename every file by giving them a prefix. This problem is similar to the first, in which I could go through every single file and rename it, but I decided to use the terminal instead to make it much faster. I found a Perl command I could use, in which I could state the folder location in which I wanted to run the command, state the prefix I wanted to add, and the targets I wanted the command to affect. I iterated through all 36 folders, changing all the files within them, and this took around 5 minutes, saving myself lots of time. However, there is a second lesson to be learned here. Before attempting the rename process via the terminal, I briefly looked at the rename right click option and thought that it did not have the capabilities to carry out the rename process. But upon further inspection, I found that by selecting the add text option, I was able to carry out the prefix adding process in a much simpler way. So the lesson to be learned is to always double check and exhaust a possible solution before moving on to the next one. And with that, this has been a short video about finding ways to make mundane tasks that little bit easier. Thanks for watching, and see you guys soon.